Sir Ashley Fox.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This government was elected on a manifesto to increase spending by £9.5 billion. This was to be paid for by £7.3 billion of extra taxes and £3.5 billion of extra borrowing, all set out in the Labour manifesto. It was a modest plan with a prudent margin. Exactly the sort of plan you might expect a party in opposition to put forward to show they could be trusted to run the public finances.
Yeah. Sir Ashley Fox painted such a picture that Labour's budget plan, while appearing reasonable on paper, actually turned into a reckless spending spree of £70 billion. That's Labour's DNA, squandering other people's money. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe before watching the clip.
Members opposite might reflect that had they implemented that plan, the British economy would be in better condition than at present. Because in Labour's first budget, they increased public expenditure not by £9.5 billion, but by £70 billion.
£72 billion.
How the Labour benches cheered with delight at the thought of all this extra spending. Pay rises for train drivers with no conditions. Pay rises for junior doctors with no strings. Money for Great British Energy. More money for the British Business Bank. All so the government can invest in projects the private sector doesn't think will make a return. We all know how this story ends. Labour will use all the business acumen that the Cabinet has at its disposal to create a modern version of British Leyland. It's what Labour does best, spending other people's money and borrowing yet more money that other people's children can repay. But all this extra spending and borrowing comes at a price. And the government is now paying 5.7% interest to borrow money for 30 years. That is the highest level since 1998.
Look, what Sir Ashley Fox said is actually very simple. Labour appear to be taking small steps when planning, but once in power, they splash the cash like popping champagne. They said 9 billion, they spent 70 billion, and the applause was deafening. Unconditional pay rises for train drivers, unconditional pay rises for doctors, money pouring into projects that are useless to the state. This reminds me of the old Labour days. Remember, it was the same story under Gordon Brown. They talked about sustainable growth and left behind huge deficits. And now Starmer's Labour is remaking the same film. But this time, it's not Netflix. It's the public's wallet paying the subscription fee. Don't you think Labour's tradition of throwing money around never changes?
And this surge in borrowing costs reflects the market's lack of confidence in the Chancellor's ability to manage Britain's finances. I will give way.
Does he accept that that surge in borrowing costs started actually with Liz Truss's mini budget and has not really stopped there since trajectory started?
At all, this surge is entirely due to the Chancellor losing control of public expenditure.
£70 billion extra.
And the increased cost of servicing our national debt adds further pressure on the British taxpayer. Having presented her budget, the Chancellor said, and I quote, "We're not going to be coming back with more tax increases or indeed more borrowing." But the problem is no one believes her. The markets don't believe her, and Labour backbenchers certainly don't believe her. They know now they only have to threaten to rebel on any item of public expenditure and the Chancellor will cave. As we saw on the Welfare Reform Bill, brought forward to save a modest £4.5 billion. What happened? The first whiff of a rebellion and the bill was gutted, leaving the taxpayer to pick up the cost. So it is in this context that over the summer we saw briefings from the Treasury testing the water on a whole series of potential tax rises. Higher rates of council tax, a land value tax, capital gains tax on family homes, lowering the thresholds for inheritance tax, and an annual property levy on the family home. No wonder the Deputy Prime Minister is being so careful about which of her many homes is her primary residence. The Chancellor is clearly desperate to raise more money. It is a cruel irony, is it not, that having invented a £22 billion black hole to justify her taxing and spending, the Chancellor now finds herself facing a black hole entirely of her own making. It is her jobs tax and other tax rises that have caused the economy to slow and unemployment to rise. Her increase in public expenditure has fuelled inflation, which has led to higher wage demands and increased benefit costs.
Will my honourable friend give
I will give way.
I thank my honourable friend for letting me intervene. This is exactly the problem, because many businesses in my constituency, and dare I say others, are saying to us as Member of Parliament that they are wanting to invest but daren't invest in growing their businesses because they do not know about the increases in taxes that are coming down the line from this Chancellor. So does he share my concern that businesses are reluctant in investing right now on the projects that they want to deliver for growth of their own enterprises?
I agree with my honourable friend. It is the threat of higher taxes that is causing the economy to stall. And rather than reducing the size of the state so that it is affordable, the government gives every indication of wanting it to grow further. The fundamental reason why this government needs to raise taxes is that it is incapable of controlling the fiscal incompetence of its own backbenchers. At their cause, Labour MPs genuinely believe the state can spend our constituents' money better than they can spend it themselves. They don't believe in thrift or self-reliance. They see no limit on the size of the state. On this side of the House, we know it is businessmen and businesswomen across Britain who create wealth and growth. Success is the result of hard work, taking risks, satisfying your customer, employing your neighbour. The government should provide the environment for those businesses to thrive, rather than threatening every part of the economy with higher taxes.
The critical point Fox highlights is this: the markets don't trust them. Starmer keeps babbling about stability, but this is the reality. The 30-year borrowing rate has shot up to 5.7%. This is the highest level since 1998. In other words, Labour's fairy tale of "we'll spend but we'll grow the economy" has already been thrown in the bin by the financial markets. Banks, investors, the business world. No one believes Labour can manage the economy. In fact, the mistrust that began with the mini-crisis during Truss's term has been compounded by Labour's spending spree. The funny thing is this: the same Labour that announced, "We've found a black hole," is now pushing the country into that very black hole. Let me ask the audience, where do you think a government that the markets don't trust will take the country? And of course, the political theatre. Fox says that no one believes the Chancellor's promise that we won't raise taxes, we won't borrow. Is he wrong? Even Labour's own MPs don't believe it. They grumble a bit, threaten a bit, and Starmer immediately backtracks. Fox reminded us of the welfare reform example. The bill prepared to save £4.5 billion was torn to shreds at the first sign of rebellion. Classic Labour behaviour. Friends, let me tell you, there is no such thing as fiscal discipline in this party. The only discipline is listening to what the unions say. So I ask you, do you think such a government can really reduce the country's debt? The most ironic part is the taxes. Fox recalled the trial balloons leaked from the Treasury throughout the summer: property taxes, inheritance tax, new annual taxes on family homes. Labour is playing its usual game. First, they test the market thinking if the reaction isn't too strong. But in reality, the plan is already clear. They've emptied the coffers, now they'll fill them with taxes. And the sad part is that these taxes will hit the middle class directly. Starmer keeps saying, "We're on the side of the workers." Well, they'll be taking it out of the workers' pockets. I ask you, does a truly worker-friendly government impose an additional annual tax on your household? Fox also made a very important point. Business is afraid to invest because no one can see what lies ahead. Will taxes increase or not? If I invest, will they take my profits? It is this uncertainty that is causing British entrepreneurs to hit the brakes. This reminds me of the 1970s. When the Labour government failed to inspire confidence in the private sector, everyone moved their investments abroad. The result? Unemployment, stagnation, a whole lost decade. History seems to be repeating itself, doesn't it? We're seeing the same signals today. Do you think this Labour mentality will drag us back into the crisis of the 70s? Finally, Fox's statement sums it up perfectly. Labour thinks it would be better to spend the people's money itself. This is actually the core of Labour's ideology. They don't trust individual freedom. They don't believe in saving, entrepreneurship, or managing your own money. For them, the solution is always bigger government, higher taxes, more debt. And the irony is that despite falling into the same hole every time, they still try to sell us the same fairy tale. But what can we say? Labour's greatest skill really is this: spending other people's money. So, do you think Starmer and his team will run the country differently this time? Or will it be the same old Labour chaos? Leave your comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.